traditional way to treat fears and phobias and anxiety in general, so we specialize on anxiety, is exposure therapy. So the therapist will ask you to imagine your source of your triggers, your source of fears and phobias, which essentially that's what you're trying to avoid, because that's your triggers, that's your source of fears and phobias. And you're when you're coming to the sessions, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Welcome to the Owner's Journal. I'm excited today to have with us Peter Oykhman, founder and CEO of CorePartners and PsyTech VR. CorePartners is a software and logistics company started in 2002, I believe, or 2003, Peter?
2003, yep.
2003. PsyTech is a little fresher, a little newer, started about 3 years ago, kind of coming out of the pandemic, which I'm fascinated to hear both origin stories today. Why don't we start with how you founded CorePartners and then move on to PsyTech from there, because I have some really good questions to ask you about the new company.
Sure. So it was at that time my partner and I we founded CorePartners out of desperation, because we were doing some software development before .com crashed. And then .com hit, nobody was buying a software development anymore. And we had actually a customer who we built for this customer this warehouse management application. They didn't pay for it, and they went belly up. So we had this application, and we're like, well, we know nothing about logistics, but let's try to sell it. So turns out that 20 years later we're still selling it.
There's a need. So, there was a need, and you filled it.
Yeah. So it's learn on the job, became this warehouse management expert, and at some point after 20 years got bored with it. And I love technology, always did, but logistics is very conservative. It's all all warehouses, all the same, like shelves, locations, conveyor belts. Rarely something new is coming up. So, but virtual reality seems like a really cool idea. And again, another crisis. First one was .com, the second one was COVID. Was trying to figure out what else I want to do, and I looked at the virtual reality even before that, but I started seriously considering what can we do with the technology, and with my another partner, we started looking at the use cases for virtual reality, and just by accident, or maybe not so much, but we stumble across this psychiatry field, fears and phobias, and seems like a good use case. Start reading about it. Again, had a lot of free time during COVID. Same thing as kind of during .com, but very conservative field. Psychology, psychiatry, nothing was really happening. The last big event was around 95 when Dr. Shapiro discovered EMDR. So after 30 years, I think we figured that we should introduce something new to the psychology and psychiatry.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this. I mean, of course, we all remember the time well. 2020, 2021. There was a crisis. It was COVID. We're still feeling the effects of it. But I remember in that time period, mental health, therapy, fears, phobias was on everyone's mind, right? So out of that crisis, I love this. You said, well, what can I do with my skill set to help people with that, right? It's your skill set as technology. Your take on the therapy process, I thought, when we talked earlier, is very interesting. It's a take I haven't heard yet, or I had not heard before, and I think the audience probably hadn't heard it either.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that getting past
So
fears and phobias in common practice in therapy.
right. So traditional way to treat fears and phobias and anxiety in general. So we specialize on anxiety is exposure therapy. So the therapist will ask you to imagine your source of your triggers, your source of fears and phobias,
Yeah.
which essentially that's what you're trying to avoid, because that's your triggers, that's your source of fears and phobias. And you're when you're coming to the sessions, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like imagine your fear and phobia. A couple problems with that. First of all, therapists really have no idea what you're imagining. You cannot really control what you're imagining, because you most likely will imagine like the whole kind of package. And with this immersive technology, VR, it could be done gradually. These triggers could be introduced in stages. Like from easier version to a kind of more complicated version. So you could progress from, and psychologists and psychiatrists that actually control the process. So like we'll show you something. If you're afraid of spiders, we'll show you a small spider somewhere in the corner of the room. Get used to that, and then you also have an option to transition to mental wellness part, where you could breathe and go back to normal, and learn actually how go back to normal, transition back to this fears, spiders and scenario, and back and forth. And you're teaching your body how to react on these better. Then bigger spider will be introduced, and more spiders will be introduced. So you will learn how to manage this thing. And that could be done with a lot of these fears and phobias, with, and PTSD is a form of anxiety as well. Same thing could be done with for example, with OCD, or with some uh, other areas. Like for example, if you have if you're trying to quit smoking, right? So we could introduce these triggers, and basically make this process a little bit better. Or if you have a drinking or some other problem, so that also could be done through the training. And that's a most it's super immersive, because in virtual reality you could introduce these images, you could introduce these motion pictures, and videos, and it's called the 6 degrees of freedom. It's a scenario where you could move around, and go closer to the object or further from the object. But there are also sounds, and there are also no smells, but sounds are there. And especially using AI, we could generate right now pretty much any scenarios, any sounds, and that
I
helps.
didn't, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm trying to distinguish between the old way of therapy, which is to
Yes.
close your eyes and imagine these things
Yes.
happening. Which in your opinion, that's not counterintuitive, but counterproductive, right? Because you don't want to
It,
imagine them. You actually want to see them. You actually want to
it
experience them.
Right. It's not counterproductive. It is productive to the degree, it's essentially, as long as you don't have a better option. Because again, can you imagine this? Yes. But you have this internal kind of a barrier. So you're trying to overcome something, and like you're afraid of dark
Spider.
rooms, right? Then like imagine you yourself in a dark room, or small spaces. Imagine yourself in a closet. That's not what kind of I want to imagine, or easily could
The
do,
conjure. Right.
right? But immersive technology allows you to kind of gradually go there. And again, because a psychologist, psychiatrist is controlling the process, he could guide you through this. He could actually be present in a scenario as an avatar. So you could be there in avatar, he will be there, or she will be there as an avatar. same room, remote access. That's a benefit of it. That actually, like one of the scenarios we've seen, people are afraid of going out of their house, right? Not so common, but it's one of the scenarios. And then it's like, what you're supposed to do. Oh, you have to go to the therapist, to clinician. Well, yeah, but that's exactly what is the problem, right? So I cannot go to the clinician. So providing them with this option, just put a VR headset, and clinician will be talking to you, will be guiding you through the process. That's what's making it so different. Or we talk to the psychologists, and if people are afraid of flying, people who have kind of more options, so they would hire a psychologist and they would fly, will get on a plane with psychologist, and psychologist will guide him, her through. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's not an option available for everyone, right? So I mean, if you can do it, great. But a lot of people just cannot, right? So that's another thing, that if you're afraid of flying, that's an option that definitely could help. So it really opens up the whole kind of a new field of options and possibilities. And moreover, we're fortunate in a way that in the U.S., official statistic, there are about 500,000 clinicians in the U.S. There is, similar number of clinicians, psychologists, psychiatrists in practicing in Europe. In Africa, it's 0.01 per 100,000 people. It's like this is, and you see, if you think that they're better than people in the US or Europe, they're in a lot of cases they're in the middle of the war zone. Their fears and phobias and anxiety is worse, and they have no help. But that technology allows to do this thing remotely. Granted that you need VR headset, and you need internet.
It's more doable than a plane and a therapist, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I think what owners are thinking when they're listening to this is, you're very much a product CEO. You're very much a product-based CEO, and this is me thinking here. And you're developing this product not on your own, not just with technology, but you have a whole team of psychologists that you're developing it with. How are you doing that? How are you planning to get it to the point where it sells itself? Because most product people think if it's good enough, it's going to sell itself, right? But you got to get to the product to a certain level where awareness is built, and then the consumer goes, "Oh my God, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
Right.
Get the headset."
Yeah. So I recently read a presentation about how to build a product, or what to build, and the title of the presentation was are you selling painkillers or vitamins? So and I love the concept, because if you have a headache, you need painkillers, and essentially that's what you are trying to build, the problem that solves the real issues, and solves a real problem. And the problem with anxiety, that's real problem. Even before we started, we knew that again, COVID, we knew that social anxieties are there. We didn't know that apparently about 80% of the world population have some form of anxiety, but we knew that the problem is there. We knew that a number of psychologists and psychiatrists cannot possibly do that. We are IT people, answering your question. So we looked at this and like, can we build this? I built multiple products before. Can we build this? Like, absolutely. But we essentially worked with 6, 7 really good advisors, clinicians, PhDs, and they were all very excited to work with us because the options we proposed to them, they didn't have this option before, and or some of them they actually did, but in early days, VR was different. It was expensive headsets. Anything to build on VR was expensive. Right now, everything is. I mean, our application is about $120 a month. It's a SaaS. So we're trying to position that you don't have to think twice. Like psychologists, psychiatrists, they don't have to think twice. $120 a month. Anybody could pay $120 a month without at long deliberation. Will I recover this money? It's you have 5 clients. You will get this money back for sure.
So you're a client base. The relationships you're building are with therapists, and you're having them use the tool. They're buying the subscription, and then they're using the tool on select few clients. I would imagine that this is not going to be. I'm not being a contrarian, I guess, with this question, but it's going to sound a little contrarian. Some of these folks that come into a therapist are having anxiety due to technology, right? Or you're hearing now that the kids are due to social media or being on in front of a computer too long. Are you treating that with this, or is it more the fear of situations?
Right. So it's more about anxiety and teaching people how to deal with the various forms of anxiety. We have a mental health part, but we have also a big mental wellness part. You don't have to go to mental health part about anxieties, but we'll teach you how to breathe, how to go back to normal, and again, put this headset anywhere in the world, turn on this, mental wellness part. We have this, we call it a safe place, create your own safe place with AI, add, music, again, AI music or, standard, binaural beats or whatever, your own music there. And, that should help you to deal with your anxiety. It doesn't really matter. Again, the source of the anxiety, at the end of the day, it is different. The solution is pretty much the same. We have both modalities, CBT and EMDR, and we just had a call with one doctor yesterday, and he said, "Look, I'm just telling my patients, turn on EMDR with this bilateral movement, and that helps. Or go to this safe place, create your own safe place, turn on this breathing exercise, and that will help." So we're prone to anxieties. That's after about 4 years dealing with it. Humans are prone to anxiety. We always will find a source for anxiety, our job or politics or mobile devices. Doesn't really matter. We're all kind of we're
great at finding anxiety. We're great at finding things that'll induce anxiety, right? If we don't have any,
we'll find it. So family, children, parents. This list is endless. We always find a source for anxiety. It's just how we're dealing with anxiety. We're just offering a technological option that is actually much easier and much more affordable than like not everybody can afford to go to the psychiatrist or psychologist. You don't have time. You don't have if you have an anxiety, you have to figure out magically how to deal with anxiety, and some people do. Some people having a problem with that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big problem in the United States. I'm sure in other parts of the world as well.
I mean, anxiety. Unfortunately, how to explain? I read recently that Spotify, for example, they said, basically we all go remote. So now you don't have to come to the office. Spotify, will go remote. I was like, but we're social creatures. We need connection. We need to communication. So when you're going remote, essentially you're creating a social anxiety. So, and some people are okay with that. Some people are not. Give people an option. If they want to go to the office, go to the office. If they don't want to go to the office, don't go to the office. But kind of by default, telling everyone that they have to go remote, we know that it creates anxiety. Just this notion will create anxiety.
100%. I experienced it myself. One of my colleagues during COVID, during the pandemic, when we were all remote, got to a point where they needed to go out to dinner or to see their colleagues.
Yeah.
Not even to talk about work, but just to see their face in person.
Yeah.
And it was causing the less, the further out it was to that happening, the more anxious this person was becoming. It's and I'm sure that person wasn't the only one, right?
Yeah. And this fear of missing out, it's like it started as a joke, but turns out that it's not a joke. People are afraid, to miss. I mean, we want to go talk to people. We want to have a normal conversation, go to the restaurant, go somewhere, park. And if we don't have it, we'll have an anxiety.
Fascinating. It's a
Anyway.
fascinating study you're doing. You're continuously building this with the help of therapists. I think we need to have a part 2 of this interview, because I could go
Absolutely.
hours on it. But we want to make this a little bit more condensed for the viewers, and give them some takeaways. The business owner viewers will want to know how you're going to market, how you're bringing this out, and what team you have around you, how you're working with those therapists and making this an effective product development team. I think that's what they'll want to know. Just the general folks listening to this that have anxiety will really want to know a case study, or how the before and after, or how it works. So why don't we go there next? You were about to say something, Peter.
No, I'm just saying that I've been in business for like 30 plus years, but doing this business, PsyTech, I learned so much that like, for example, people are willing to work for free, or we spent $5,000 last year on marketing, and we're still on the first page of Google. So there are tons of stuff I had no idea that is possible. And I was just, I didn't know that I will start learning from scratch, after doing, I've been doing business for 30 years, but actually I did.
Let's go to lessons learned in part 2. Let's cut it there, because I know you have to jump on the call with the team, but great interview, Peter.
Thank you
very much. Let's do it again.